Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Welch. I'm the sports editor here at Star Local Media. This fellow right here is Kendrick Johnson. He is our sports editor for the McKinney Courier-Gazette. We're here to talk Game of the Week for high school football for this week. First off, a big thank you to everybody who voted. Ultimately, we got a fun little showdown at Clark Stadium out in Plano on Friday at 7:30 between Plano Senior and McKinney that ultimately comes away with the Game of the Week vote. So props to the Wildcats and the Lions fans for letting their voices be heard for this one. So yes, myself and Kendrick are here to break down that game, give you all a little bit of insight on what to expect in this highly anticipated District 6A matchup between playoff hopefuls Plano and McKinney. Now, obviously, Kendrick, this game a big deal for the fans of both of these teams. From McKinney's standpoint, talk a little bit about what just the significance of this game for the Lions.
First of all, the Lions come off of the first 4-0 start in 6 years. All the confidence in the world, avenged the loss from last year to Plano West, and this year their mentality is 3 yards. They were 3 yards short from the playoffs, and I would go far to say if they win Friday, they're good. They're way ahead of that 3-yard marker.
Okay.
But the big keys for them is they must run the ball. Matthew Gaddick must continue doing what he's doing, and they have Cordrick Dunn, who's been a pleasant surprise. He came out the blue and had 340 yards. In his first start, and of course the passing game. They have a very explosive offense that, if you put 8 men in a box, they can get you passing. If you play the pass, they can get you running. So they have very balanced, and that was what gave Plano problems last year. They couldn't deal with the speed of Kornbach and Gaddick, and got in space and got in a shootout and won. And I think they're going to have to get similar, but they're very good up front this year. The front seven so far is only averaging, giving up like 250 a game compared to 400 last year. So it's a big difference, and they legitimately have the confidence as, hey, we can beat these guys. Like last year they didn't know. Now they know.
It kind of for Plano, this, as far as just the significance of Friday's game, this is kind of a continuation of Plano. They've already built a habit of avenging losses from the past year. They've already defeated 2 teams that they lost to last season, Rowlett and Denton Geyer. They're off to their first 4-0 start since 2008 as a result. So when you look at, like, I've already heard the term trap game kind of being thrown around for Plano for this one. And if you look at it, like, it does kind of have the symptoms of one. It's because you're coming off an emotional win the week before against Denton Geyer, arguably the biggest win Plano's had under Jadon McCullough. And then you look next week and you see Allen, and you think of the undefeated Allen versus undefeated Plano. You get a little glossy-eyed, but unfortunately, I don't think that focus should be an issue for Plano this week. All that you have to do is look at last year as to why it would be unwise to take McKinney lightly. And so yeah, I can't foresee Plano falling into the elements of the trap game narrative for this one.
Wouldn't you say that last year's loss of McKinney was the worst loss of the year for them?
It was the one that I think, because you look at
I saw the pain in the faces and Coach McCullough, so I'm just going off of that and thinking, like, they literally, like, you can tell when someone expects to win, they literally thought W when they walked through.
Because they had 3 of their district losses last year by a combined 7 points. They lost to McKinney by 3, to Wiley by 3, and Plano East by 1. Of those 3 losses, though, I would agree that the one to McKinney was the one that you kind of look back and like, how did we let that one slip away? So Plano will obviously be trying to right the ship and avenge another loss on Friday. Kendrick explained kind of what McKinney has in store on offense. For this Thursday's edition of the Plano Star-Courier, I wrote a bit of a feature, kind of a deep dive into the Plano offense and just how Plano still runs the ball a ton, as they have for several years now, but they've kind of shed the identity as this ball control grinding run offense, and they've really become like maybe the most explosive run offense in the area. And that sounds like hyperbole. The key number though in that statement though, Plano's averaging 9.1 rushing yards per carry this season. It's almost an entire first down. And they've also but you look at the teams that are in that rank in the top 10 in the area in total rushing yards. Plano Senior by far of those 10 has run the ball the fewest amount of times, and it's because these quick big play drives that they've rattled off.
Is McKinney in there?
McKinney actually isn't there. Yeah, no, McKinney isn't actually. This is kind of a good transition because Plano averaging 9.1 rushing yards per carry. McKinney's averaging 7.5, which speaks very well to the work that Matt Gaddick, Cordrick Dunn have done this season. With Plano though, it's Kyron Cumby, who is just an absolute. Kyron Cumbie is, for you baseball fans out there, Kyron Cumbie is the Giancarlo Stanton of District 66A. He is a home run threat of the highest order.
I saw him last year. He hit him for at least one. I want to say two, and one got called back, but he hit him for at least a 50-yard last year as a sophomore.
Cumbie is averaging 16.3 yards per carry this year. I mean,
that's special.
He carried the ball just 6 times against Denton Geyer last week, that had 227 yards and 3 touchdowns. You just don't see a stat line like that in high school football.
Here's 2 questions for you. Do you think Plano can win a shootout versus McKinney? And why is this man only getting the ball 6 times?
Well, to be fair, okay, for that second one, it's kind of the last week's game was weird. Plano only ran 33 plays.
Wow.
Geyer ran 83 because they were scoring so fast. They had 3 touchdowns that were 1-play drives. They had 35 points combined. For those 35 points, they needed just 8 plays. So it was literally like the apex of their big play offense. And they also use Cumbie at receiver, I should note.
He does it all.
He had 5 receptions. They use him in screen passes. They actually line him out wide at the slot every now and then too. So he gets plenty of targets. He did touch the ball for
McKinney. You got to stop number 2.
So he did. He did touch the ball for a third of their possessions. I think in a shootout though, Plano they've shown that. They're averaging 39 points per game. I
won't say McKinney's averaging a little bit over 40.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are 2 teams that are accustomed to, that are having, some of their most, their most productive offensive years in quite some time. So, I think, unlike in years past where, if Plano fell behind by 10 points, it was just going to make things, it was church. But this year they've already erased, 2 double-digit deficits, one against Rowlett, one against Hebron. So, I think that they've at least shown so far from what we've seen that they are built to play whatever style that Friday's game might present. So, kind of leading into last year's game, you were there. You got to see this upset firsthand. What were just your takeaways from that game, and what did McKinney do that really seemed to fluster Plano?
McKinney had a ball control offense that game. Their line, which has gotten way better, they were okay last year. They're really good up front. They have a center that runs a 4.8. Shout out to Corbell, he's a good guy. But number 73. But their line now is not just him. It's a variety where they can lean on you and wear you out and get you in the second half. Mm-hmm. And they didn't do it much last year, but they did it that game. Okay. It was homecoming week, so I don't know if the players were extra hyped. Mm-hmm. And a big thing, I think the difference in the game will come to how good is the Plano secondary versus the McKinney receivers. Because McKinney, they got Quentin Kornbach, who does what he does. They got the talented Dominic Segnaleon. People are sleeping on him. He's like a Wes Worker guy. He'll go with the whole game and not have no catches in the final drive, have 2 catches and beat you. Mm-hmm. He's very, very, very dangerous, very shifty. And they got Chordell Griffin, who's very talented, very athletic, kind of lacking in consistency, but can catch that 50-yard bomb and win the game. So I think that's going to be the receivers, the McKinney receiving course versus the Plano secondary is going to be really tough. Okay. And Damon Whitmer is very accurate. Last week he threw his first interception in varsity. He's a 3-year starter. Okay. So he's got a 20-to-1 ratio.
It sounds like at the surface there are a lot of stylistic parallels between these 2 teams. They both have explosive rushing offenses. We've mentioned Matt Gaddick and Cordrick Dunn for McKinney. I've talked about Kyron Cumbie. Plano also has a sophomore back there, Cody Christ, who had a breakout game of his own, ran for over 200 yards against Rowlett. He is kind of the thunder to Cumbie's lightning, so to speak. And they also have Jonathan Taylor, the quarterback, who's capable of taking it for a run on his own. Out wide, they don't throw the ball a ton, but it's the kind of thing where if you load up against the run enough, then they can catch you off guard. And they do have some tall, athletic wideouts on the outside. Caleb McAway is always a threat to win a jump ball here and there. Like I've said, they use Cumbie out receiver as well. So it's just another element to to take note of if you're McKinney. And you mentioned the strides that McKinney's offensive line has made. That area has been maybe the most improved unit of any for Plano this year. It was a group that entered the season with only 1 returning starter. Wow. The center, A.K. Inyang, and they've between guys like Kevin Johnson, Efren Solorzano. The offensive line has become just this a welcome surprise. Some might say for Plano this year, and has really kind of been the fulcrum to this dominant rushing offense. So now with the stage kind of set for this game on Friday, Kendrick, which way are you leaning in this? Who do you see coming out on top and why?
Man, I've really been going back and forth. How good does Plano play at home at Clark?
I don't have an
Because
exact.
McKinney plays very well at Poe. They're very comfortable. Lion Nation represents, but on the road it's just a little bit different.
They would have, they had some stumbles with, I'm not going to mention Allen because everybody knows the PIC struggles with Allen. But, I know McKinney Boyd got the best of them a couple times at home, but generally outside of that, they do tend to fare pretty well, so to speak.
I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna put 35-31 Lions in a shootout.
Ooh.
Please keep my sparkling record intact. The main thing is they got the confidence. They know they can beat these guys. They beat the same guys last year. But most importantly, they got a strong senior class.
Okay.
Because everybody don't realize Gaddett, Whitmer, and Kornbach are 3-year starters, and they got that confidence and their focus. And it's like you can kind of tell by little things. They're focused on ending that 8-year playoff drought. And I think that senior class is going to be the big difference versus just like the overall team's the experience.
I guess I guess if I'm going to lean one way on this one, I would say I'm going to. I give Plano the edge in this one. The reasons why I think not to go all sports cliche generator on you, but I would say Plano's been a little bit more battle tested so far, and I think that relative to where, because these two teams, McKinney's at the same, at least I shouldn't say they were in the same spot they were last year because they just defeated Plano West the week before. McKinney is. It's fair to say McKinney has not played the same level of competition as the rest of 6-6A has, and but they've taken care of business. They beat the teams they were supposed to beat. They've looked much more impressive in doing so than they did last year. They took care of Plano West last week, which is a team that they tripped up against last year.
And they're more healthy this year.
Yeah, they're healthier. They're obviously much more improved. It's also worth noting though that they haven't really been punched in the mouth yet, so to speak. Outside of that, that first quarter against Midlothian, they haven't really been playing, with an advantage all the way through, and haven't really faced any sort of the kind of pressure that I think might be in store for them on Friday. So it is fair to wonder, how much of a step up in competition this is going to feel like relative to what they have seen so far this season. Because you think of last year's team, they came in there, first off, they were coming off a loss, so they knew what that felt like. The week before in week 3, that Midlothian game was a wild
game of the year.
went down to the very end. It's been a much different narrative, so to speak, for McKinney this year. So I do wonder ultimately how they handle kind of that uptick in competition. Whereas Plano has been playing, the game against Geyer, they won by 2 points, and had to hang on for dear life against them. Against Hebron, went right down to the wire, won by 1 point. Plano has been in situations like this against playoff caliber teams, and I trust that will kind of serve as a bit of an intangible advantage for Friday. I guess I also think that Plano's a bit more better equipped to handle McKinney's speed than they were last year.
That was definitely a big difference.
I think when you talk about their secondary, their secondary is clad in varsity experience. The area of the defense that has improved the most from last year has probably been the defensive line. There's a lot more speed on the edge with defensive ends Marcellus Upshaw and Keon Hurst. Caleb Anderson is a tackling machine at linebacker. I feel like they are better equipped to handle McKinney this year. Plus, I think that especially after the way that last week went against Geyer, where they led by 24 points in the second half, wound up only winning by 2, dang near let a massive lead slip away. And Coach McCullough stressed afterwards, just the focus, you cannot take your eye off the ball.
Not in this district.
Yeah, I cannot foresee focus being an issue.
What about special teams?
Special teams? I know Plano's got a great kicker.
McKinney's kicker is not bad at all. He's second team all district. Props to him. He was set the record for the most points for a career last week. And they got Kornbach and Dunn that can go either one. They go to the house off of a simple punt or a kickoff and turn the game around.
Yeah, Plano has they split their special team stuff between kicker Drew Christian, Ryan Scott's the punter. But yes, they've got 2 talented kickers. Plano always has good kickers. That's nothing new. But ultimately, in the end, I kind of foresee focus not being an issue, and I think that the sting of last year's game,
motivator.
Yeah, it's a big motivator. McKinney, I don't feel like they feel like McKinney's going to sneak up on them this time around. So ultimately, I do give Plano the edge in this one. If I had to put a margin of victory on it, let's say anywhere from the range of 7 to 10 points.
Oh, you got double figures. I can't
7 to 10. It could be 9. It could be 7. I give myself a little wiggle room there. But so yeah, that's kind of where we are at with this with this game, folks, on Friday, a big game out at Clark Stadium between Plano Senior and McKinney. I will be on site. I will be live tweeting the game, so if you're not able to make it, hey, you know what? Follow me along. I'm at, my Twitter handle is MWelchSLM. Kendrick, he's going to be out watching McKinney, Boyd, and Wiley. He's always tweeting great stuff, though, about McKinney ISD Athletics. You can follow him along at Kendrick Johnso. It is Kendrick Johnson without that N at the very end, so a little bit different. But yeah, and otherwise, once the games have concluded on Friday night, the first spot that you can check out our stories is at starlocalsports.com. I'm out of breath, Kendrick. That was a good time, though. But hey, I appreciate you guys watching, and hey, enjoy the rest of your week.